Can I give a quick introduction of you? Oh, we are not able to hear Maharaj.
Yes, you may give a brief introduction.
Thank you, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Dear devotees, thank you all for joining. So we are very, very blessed and very fortunate today to have His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj with us. It is our dream come true, and what we are receiving is an extraordinary mercy of Maharaj because we are getting his association in the beginning of the new year. On behalf of Hare Krishna Temple of Austin, Maharaj, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to you for giving your holy association today. With that, I would like to give a very brief introduction of Maharaj. His glories are unlimited. In the interest of time, I just want to give a short one. Maharaj was born Glenn Philip Teton, the only son of a respected Chicago lawyer who was appointed as judge later. You all may aware of Maharaj's parents meeting Srila Prabhupada in 1971 in Calcutta. A very beautiful, sweet pastime and loving exchange between Srila Prabhupada and Maharaj's parents. It's an amazing pastime. You can read about it in Watering the Seed book that Maharaj wrote. In 1969, while studying at Brandeis University in Boston, Maharaj met Srila Prabhupada. And then in that very brief meeting with Srila Prabhupada, Maharaj felt he learned more in one brief exchange than he had learned in his many years of academic education. Then after graduating from the university, Maharaj accepted formal initiation from Srila Prabhupada and received the spiritual name His Grace Giriraj Das at that time. Quickly after that, Maharaj became the member of Boston Center. Then Maharaj was given the opportunity to go to India with Srila Prabhupada and help in establishing Srila Prabhupada's mission in India. In 1972, Prabhupada appointed Maharaj as president of ISKCON Bombay and trustee of the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. Since then, Maharaj has made many significant contributions to Srila Prabhupada's mission, and most notably, the development of Hare Krishna land in Juhu, Bombay. So if you go to Juhu, you can see the wonder. Maharaj is the pillar of support for Juhu temple. He developed the old temple from the scratch. Maharaj also had taken active part in the famous Cross Maidan festival along with His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and they made very prominent life members in Juhu and connecting them to our movement. As I said during one of our Sunday feast before, the great spiritual foundation we see in Bombay now, thousands and thousands of people taking up Krishna consciousness and living the life of bhakti, the seed was planted by His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj. So we are reaping the fruits now, and the Juhu temple has become the one of the famous attraction in India. People all over the world come to Juhu temple. And also Maharaj was instrumental in the acquisition and development of Bhaktivedanta Ashram in Govardhan, and he led the Kirtan Ashram for women. He also established Bhaktivedanta Hospice and Vrindavan Institute of Palliative Care. All these are in Vrindavan, the Holy Dham, Vrindavan. So we can see Maharaj has done a tremendous, great work in the Holy Dham, especially for those devotees who are practicing for many, many years. And Bhaktivedanta Hospice is for devotees who dedicated their entire life in service of Srila Prabhupada's mission. And at the time of their leaving the body, they have been offered a great care in the Bhaktivedanta Hospice. And the Bhaktivedanta Ashram has become the sanctuary for the pure devotees, coming together and studying Srila Prabhupada's books in a deeper manner. So through his efforts, Maharaj has become renowned for the austerities, his loyalty and dedication to Srila Prabhupada's mission, also for his ability to raise funds and cultivate important members of our society. In the following year, after Srila Prabhupada's departure in 1977, Maharaj was awarded the Renounced Order of Life, the Sannyas Order, and appointed president of ISKCON Board of Trustees in India. And in 1982, he was appointed to ISKCON's Governing Body Commission, and he went on to oversee the society's activities in Bombay, Mauritius, South Africa, Spain, Portugal, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. Also, Maharaj has taught at the Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education and continues to lecture and gives presentation at Japa retreats, workshops around the world. Presently, Maharaj is based in Carpentria. It's a beautiful ashram in California. He is now focusing on one of the main personal instructions that he received from Srila Prabhupada, which is to write. So you may have read in the Watering the Seed book that the tug of war situation Maharaj faced, that is to whether to do services or to write. Now Maharaj is focusing on writing many transcendental gems, like books are coming out, such as Watering the Seed, Many Moons, Life's Final Exam, Death and Dying from the Vedic Perspective. And recently Maharaj completed much awaited book about Srila Prabhupada's monumental efforts in Bombay, the book titled I Will Build You a Temple, the Jew story. Maharaj is also working on books about his research for a search for a spiritual master and his early days in the Boston Temple, his travels with Srila Prabhupada in India, and Vaishnava holy days. So, with that, now let's welcome His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj to Hare Krishna Temple of Austin by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra one time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Over to you, Maharaj.
So I will begin by singing the Mangala Charana prayers and leading a short kirtan. And then I will speak on a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam in connection with the new year. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupa.
We are not able to hear you.
Really? Can you hear me now?
Oh, I'm able to hear, Prabhu.
Yes, Maharaj. We are able to hear you. Sorry.
Okay. I'll start over. We don't want to miss any of our previous acharyas. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupa Sabrajata Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Sam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha. Is Gauri here? Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Srila Guru Deva. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pri Prajakacharya Stotra Sutrasri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pri Prajakacharya Stotra Sutrasri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So, we have passed another year, and I thought it appropriate to read about the passage of time, the cycles of time, and how we should utilize our time. So I will read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Pure Devotional Service, Text 17, and I will be back in a minute.
Kirtan, can you start the Kirtan?
Sure, Prabhu. 1 second. Can you hear me, Prabhu? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Nice kirtan. So, we'll read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Pure Devotional Service, Text 17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ayur Hariti Vaipumsam Udyan Astam Chayanaso Tasyarte Yakshano Nita Uttama Shloka Vartaya. Ayur Hariti Vaipumsam Udyan Astam Chayanaso Tasyarte Yakshano Nita Uttama Shloka Vartaya. Ayu, duration of life. Harati, decreases. Vai, certainly. Pumsam, of the people. Udyan, rising. Astam, setting. Cha, also. Yan, moving. Aso, the sun. Tasya, of one who glorifies the Lord. Rite, except. Yat, by whom. Kshana, time. Nita, utilized. Uttama Shloka, the all-good personality of Godhead. Vartaya, in the topics of. Translation. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. I'll repeat. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This verse indirectly confirms the greater importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of devotional service. So, there are 8,400,000 species of life, but only in the human form of life can we realize our eternal relationship with God. And those of you who have joined us for today's program are engaged in devotional service. Devotional service begins with Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting about Krishna. So you are hearing about Krishna. So you are engaged in devotional service. But here the first sentence says, this verse indirectly confirms the greater importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of devotional service. So the word accelerate means to go faster. Like in an automobile, there's a foot pedal called the accelerator. And when you step on the accelerator, the car goes faster. And yeah, so in terms of our devotional service, we want to step on it. We want to go faster because time is passing. The clock is ticking. And we don't know how much time we have. And so whatever time we do have, we want to utilize fully in the best way to progress in Krishna consciousness. Time and tide wait for no man. So the time indicated by the sunrise and sunset will be uselessly wasted if such time is not properly utilized for realization or realizing identification of spiritual values. So we, the living entity, are spiritual souls, and we are inhabiting a material body, but we are not the body. We are the soul, or Atma, or Jivatma, within the body. So everyone is interested in his self-interest, which is natural, but to determine our self-interest, we have to know who our self is. Are we the body, or are we something else? Are we the soul within the body? And Srila Prabhupada gives the example that if you're performing a mathematical calculation and you make a mistake in the first step, then even if you perform all the other functions perfectly, you may get further and further away from the actual solution, from the right answer. So if we make a mistake in the first step, in other words, if we identify ourselves as being the body rather than the soul, even if we do everything perfectly for the sake of the body, we will get further and further away from the actual happiness that we seek. Once someone gave me a book written by a Harvard psychologist or sociologist called Stumbling on Happiness. And the premise of the book, and later actually I saw that my godbrother, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, very learned and scholarly and intelligent godbrother, he'd also come across that book, and he wrote a little article about it for Back to Godhead. Anyway, someone gave me this book, and Stumbling on Happiness, and the premise is that we human beings are very poor at predicting what will make us happy. And therefore, the title, Stumbling on Happiness, if you find happiness, you just sort of stumble on it because you don't find it where you are looking for it or where you would expect to find it. So fortunately, we have stumbled on Krishna consciousness, and through Krishna consciousness, we are able to experience actual happiness. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami, which Srila Prabhupada has given us as the nectar of devotion, explains the general characteristics of devotional service. There's 6. And 2 begin in sadhana bhakti, and 2 in bhava bhakti, and 2 in prema bhakti. And the 2 in sadhana bhakti are, devotional service brings all auspiciousness, and devotional service brings relief from material distress. And under all auspiciousness, there are a few items, and one of them is happiness. So even from the stage of sadhana bhakti, where we all begin, one can experience happiness, and we are experiencing happiness. Otherwise, we wouldn't continue doing what we're doing. So, coming back to the purport here, this verse indirectly confirms the greater importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of devotional service. Time and tide wait for no man, so the time indicated by the sunrise and the sunset will be uselessly wasted if such time is not properly utilized for realizing identification of spiritual values. Even a fraction of the duration of life wasted cannot be compensated by any amount of gold. So this is practical. At the time of death, if you want to extend the duration of your life by even 1 minute and are ready to spend any amount of money, you cannot do it. That means that you cannot put a price tag on the time that comprises your life. Our life is actually made of time. How we spend our time really means how we spend our life. So right now, let us say it's about 11 o'clock, California time, which would be, say, 1 o'clock in Texas. So this moment, actually it's 10:59 here, so that would be 12:59 there. We cannot get this back by spending any amount of money. Once it's gone, it's gone. So with whatever time we have, we must engage in devotional service, because otherwise that time is gone and we can never get it back. Even if we're ready to spend any amount of money, we can never get it back. We should be very attentive to this point about how we spend our time. Human life is simply awarded to a living entity, jiva, so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. So the two go together, realizing our spiritual identities and our permanent source of happiness. Because when we realize our spiritual identity, then we know that our permanent source of happiness will be spiritual, certainly not material. So human life is simply awarded to a living entity, jiva. It's the only reason we've been awarded the human form of life. Human form of life is simply awarded to a living entity, jiva, so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. A living being, especially the human being, is seeking happiness, because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity. So, yes, the Lord is Satchidananda, and we, being parts and parcels of the Lord, are also by nature Satchidananda. Sat means eternal, Chit means conscious, and Ananda means blissful. So by nature, we are blissful. But because of being covered by the material body, and more so by material consciousness, we do not experience our innate happiness. But we want to be happy, and so we are seeking happiness. But in most cases, we don't know where to find real happiness. A living being, especially the human being, is seeking happiness, because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity. But he is vainly seeking happiness in the material atmosphere. Srila Prabhupada gave the example of a fish out of water. If you take a fish out of water, even if you put it in a golden bowl and fill that bowl with precious gems and jewels and light incense and spray perfumes and create all the facilities that are meant for creating a happy environment or pleasurable environment. But even then the fish won't be happy, because the fish is a creature of the water, and the fish can be happy only in water. So similarly, we are creatures of the spirit, and we can be happy only in the spiritual atmosphere, not otherwise. A living being, especially the human being, is seeking happiness, because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity. Srila Prabhupada is so kind, actually. He's telling us how to be happy. You know, that was what he wanted. He wanted us to be happy, wanted people to be happy. A living being, especially the human being, is seeking happiness, because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity. But he is vainly seeking happiness in the material atmosphere. A living being is constitutionally a spiritual spark of the complete whole, and his happiness can be perfectly perceived in spiritual activities. The Lord is the complete spirit whole, and his name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and personality are all identical with him. Once a person comes into contact with any one of the above-mentioned energies of the Lord, through the proper channel of devotional service, the door to perfection is immediately opened. So we've already discussed that we are not the body, we're the soul within the body. And as spiritual souls, we can be happy only in spiritual activities and in a spiritual atmosphere. And the Supreme Spirit is Krishna. And our constitutional position is that we are eternal servants of Krishna. Jiver Swarupai Krishna Nityadas. So we can be happy only when we're established in our constitutional positions as eternal servants of Krishna. It's that simple. And Srimad Bhagavatam says, Mukti hitva anyata rupam sarupena vivastitaha. Mukti, or liberation, means to be re-established in one's swarup, in one's constitutional position. That is mukti. And so this is what we want, and we can achieve it easily. Actually, we can achieve it easily by following the standard process of Bhakti Yoga, as given to us by Srila Prabhupada and the Shastras and previous acharyas. So that situation of happiness comes when we connect with Krishna. And how do we connect with Krishna? It's very easy, because there's his name, his forms, his qualities, his pastimes, his entourage, it means his pure devotees, his personality, they're all Krishna. And we can connect with any one of those easily through the process of Bhakti Yoga. So we don't have to be, drying up in this desert of material existence, but we can, come to the oasis of Krishna consciousness very easily. Once a person comes into contact with any one of the above-mentioned energies of the Lord, through the proper channel of devotional service, the door to perfection is immediately opened. In the Bhagavad Gita 2:40, the Lord has explained such contact in the following words. So now what's the benefit if we do come in contact with the Lord? Quote, endeavors in devotional service are never baffled, nor is there failure. A slight beginning of such activities is sufficient even to deliver a person from the great ocean of material fears. So this is another beautiful quality of devotional service, that it is never lost. Whatever we achieve materially is lost at the time of death. For example, if I've mastered many languages in this life, but when I leave this body and take birth again, I don't know any language. It's just ga, 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 just like any baby doesn't know how to speak. So materially, whatever we achieve in this life is lost at the time of death. But spiritually, whatever we achieve is not lost. For example, if we progress only 1% in Krishna consciousness in this life, then in the next life we begin from 2%. It's not lost. You know, if we progress 50% in this life, then in the next life we begin from 51%. It continues. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada cited this verse, Bhagavad Gita 240, which says that in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution. And in one purport, beautiful purport in the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness is so pure and perfect that one will be forcibly dragged to ultimate success. So we're on our way. We're going back home, back to Godhead, and we will reach the destination. It's guaranteed. Of course, if we commit offenses, especially Vaishnava aparad, then, you know, that could take some time to recover from. So we should be very careful about that one in particular. In fact, the first offense against the holy name is sadhu ninda, to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagate the holy name of the Lord. So yeah, we should be careful about that. We should not criticize devotees. And if we avoid that, then our path is clear. As a highly potent drug injected intravenously acts at once on the whole body, the transcendental topics of the Lord injected through the ear by the pure devotee of the Lord can act very efficiently. There's a very nice example. So if you get an injection, say in your arm or wherever, that medicine will immediately circulate throughout your whole body. And similarly, if you receive the messages of the Lord, Uttama Shloka Vartaya, through the ear, it will act very efficiently. As a highly potent drug injected intravenously acts at once on the whole body, the transcendental topics of the Lord injected through the ear by the pure devotee of the Lord can act very efficiently. Oral reception, that's A-U-R-A-L, means through the ear. Oral reception of the transcendental message implies total realization. Just as fructification of one part of a tree implies fructification of all other parts. So yes, it comes into the ear in the form of sound, Uttama Shloka Vartaya, but the realization becomes complete. The Lord's name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so on, as we read. Which is what we want, and that will make us happy. Oral realization of the transcendental message implies total realization. Just as fructification of one part of a tree implies fructification of all other parts. This realization, for a moment, in the association of pure devotees like Shukadev Goswami, prepares one's complete life for eternity. And thus the sun fails to rob the pure devotee of his duration of life, inasmuch as he is constantly busy in the devotional service of the Lord, purifying his existence. So by engaging in the process of bhakti yoga, the rising and setting of the sun are not robbing us of our duration of life, but rather we are preparing ourselves for our eternal life with Krishna. And so it seems like a very striking statement. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. Well, how is that? By the rising and the setting of the sun, is not the duration of life of even the devotees decreased? But in a way, no. Because the devotee, by engaging in such topics, is approaching his eternal life. So his his duration of life is not being decreased, but rather he's realizing his eternal life. Death is a symptom of the material infection of the eternal living being. Only due to material infection is the eternal living entity subjected to the law of birth, death, old age, and disease. The materialistic way of pious activities, like charity, is recommended in the Smriti Shastras, as quoted by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Money given in charity to a suitable person is guaranteed bank balance in the next life. Such charity is recommended to be given to a Brahmin. If the money is given in charity to a non-Brahmin, without Brahminical qualification, the money is returned in the next life in the same proportion. If it is given in charity to a half-educated Brahmin, even then the money is returned double. If the money is given in charity to a learned and fully qualified Brahmin, the money is returned 100 and 1,000 times. And if the money is given to a Veda Paraga, one who has factually realized the path of the Vedas, it is returned by unlimited multiplication. So everything in the material world is limited. And therefore, to get an unlimited return, one will have to go to the spiritual world to get it. And one will go to the spiritual world because it is guaranteed by this process and also by this logic. If the money is given to a Veda Paraga, one has factually realized the path of the Vedas, it is returned by unlimited multiplication. The ultimate end of Vedic knowledge is realization of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedya. There is a guarantee of monies being returned if given in charity, regardless of the proportion. That's a fact. Similarly, a moment passed, just a moment. Similarly, a moment passed in the association of a pure devotee is a moment. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, sadhu sange, sarva shastrakai, lava matra sadhu sange, sarva siddhi hai. Lava matra is described to be 1/11th of a second. That's how little time it takes Sadhu Sange, Sarva Shastra Kai. All the scriptures state that by associating with the devotee for even a moment, Sarva Siddhi Hoy, one can attain all perfection. Because in that moment, the devotee can tell you about devotional service or engage you in devotional service. And by devotional service, you attain all perfection. So that is here. A moment passed in the association of a pure devotee by hearing and chanting the transcendental messages of the Lord is a perfect guarantee. Perfect guarantee. It's a perfect guarantee for eternal life, for returning home back to Godhead. Madhama gatva purna janma davidyate. It's a line from the Bhagavad Gita in which Lord Krishna says that one who attains to his abode never takes birth again. In other words, a devotee of the Lord is guaranteed eternal life. A devotee's old age or disease in the present life is but an impetus to such guaranteed eternal life. So usually we don't want disease or old age, and naturally, of course, we don't want disease or old age, but disease and old age can be an impetus for us to accelerate our devotional service, which will bring us closer to our eternal life with Krishna sooner. So a devotee's old age or disease in the present life is but an impetus to such guaranteed eternal life, because they make us realize that this physical body is not a happy place, that the material world is not a happy place. And so to realize the happiness that we want, we should go back home, back to Godhead. And to go back home, back to Godhead, we need to engage in devotional service, bhakti yoga. And because we don't know how much time we have, we want to accelerate. We want to step on it so that we can realize our goal in life in this very lifetime. And realize the happiness that we all are seeking. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, would you like to take questions?
Yes, I can.
Would you like to take directly, or should I moderate it for you?
Directly.
Okay, good, Maharaj. Dear devotees, please ask questions to Maharaj directly. You may raise your hand so we can know that you have a question. Yeah, Lalita Prasad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your lecture. I have a question regarding pain. And we have heard many times that pure devotees don't feel pain. And my understanding is that I've witnessed Prabhupada when I was there in 1977, when Prabhupada was in his later days on this planet. And I used to have direct view of his veranda where he will lay in the late afternoons, and I could see the discomfort that he experienced. And when people tell me, or the devotees tell me that Prabhupada did not feel pain, I get upset because I know he felt pain. And of course, the pain of Jesus Christ is not the same pain that I suffer due to my karma. The pain of the pure devotee is due to the sinful activities. And early in ISKCON, we used to be told to be mindful of our sinful activities because they will cause disease in our spiritual master. So when the example of Haridas Thakur and many devotees, when they give lectures, they say, oh, this individual did not feel pain, or the pure devotees do not feel pain. I don't understand how they can say that, that they don't feel pain. And it's confusing, and I sometimes find myself getting upset, at others' comments that a pure devotee does not feel pain. My spiritual master, our spiritual father, I know he felt pain. And if someone tells me that he didn't feel pain, I really question their comments. So maybe you can, clarify that a little bit for me. Thank you.
Of course, devotees do feel pain. Even a pure devotee will feel pain in the body. But his experience of the pain is different because he doesn't identify with the body. And so the pain is there, but he's somewhat detached from it. And it's also a matter of focus or concentration. Even we, ordinary devotees, have experience. We might have some pain, a headache or whatever. But if we get involved in Krishna Katha, we forget the pain. So in a way, the pain is still there, but in a way it's not there because we're not feeling it, because our mind is somewhere else. Srila Prabhupada gave the example of Stalin, who, he had such control of his mind that I think he underwent some operation. He didn't take anesthesia because he had such control over his mind that he didn't focus on it. So, but it would be incorrect to say that a pure devotee doesn't experience pain. But he will experience it in a different way than an ordinary person because of his Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Prabhu. And Umesh Prabhu, you raised your hand. Could you please ask a question?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thanks for taking time and giving us the class, and especially on time and how we should utilize it. I wanted to ask this question. We are, beginning to be on our path to be Krishna conscious, and we are all human beings. We come with good and bad habits. Some of the habits that are in the material world of, superiority complex, or the common habit in human beings to compete. So how do we guard ourselves that when we come to this spiritual world, we are not bringing the common bad habits of human, wherein we kind of create a competition in this spiritual world as well, that I do X rounds more than you, so I'm more superior, or I do Y service more than you, so I'm more superior. How do we guard against that? Because it's very difficult to not bring the material world ego or superiority to the spiritual world.
Well, as Chaitanya Charitamrita says, nothing is good or bad. Good and bad are mental concoctions. Otherwise, the material world is all bad. But if something can be used in Krishna consciousness, then it can be good. So competition is part of life. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada encouraged transcendental competition in book distribution, for example. And so, but there's a difference between transcendental competition and material competition. In transcendental competition, one admits the good qualities or service of the other, but still one wants to excel it to please Krishna more. Whereas in a mundane competition, there's often envy in which the person does not admit the good qualities or service of the competitor. I'll give an example of my own. It's a little different, but how competition can be used in Krishna service. After the success of the first Bombay Pandal, Srila Prabhupada sent Tamal Krishna Goswami and me to Calcutta to arrange a Pandal program there. And, I was new to Calcutta. I didn't really know people. But somehow I got hold of a souvenir book. When at these programs, they publish a souvenir book with advertisements. And that's how they raise funds for the program. So somehow I got a souvenir book of, I'll say the name. I got a souvenir book of Swami Chinmayananda. And I was determined that I will go to every single person who gave an ad for Swami Chinmayananda and get an ad for our souvenir book for Srila Prabhupada and get a bigger ad. So that was a sort of competition. But it was healthy. I mean, it didn't have any bad effects on any devotees. So yeah, everything can be dovetailed, but it's a matter of how to dovetail it in a favorable way. But, being competitive or any of the things you mentioned are not bad in and of themselves. They can be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness.
Right. And another person, Arjun Luthra, can you please unmute? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I had a question. You had mentioned, how it's so valuable to spend a moment with a pure devotee. And my question is, how can we always experience the presence of a pure devotee or the devotees, even when they're not physically present during our day-to-day life? If they're not physically with us, how can we remember them every single moment?
The main way, I'm sure you've heard there are two methods of association. One is called Vani, which means transcendental sound or words, and the other is Vapu, which means physical presence or body. And the physical presence may or may not be there, but the Vani, the words, the instructions are always there. And by following the instructions, we can experience the person's presence. As Srila Prabhupada dedicated his Srimad Bhagavatam to his spiritual master, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. So by following the instructions, you live with the guru or sadhu. And so that's very encouraging. By serving them, we can feel their presence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maharaj, Rasikendra Prabhu has a question. Rasikendra Prabhu, please unmute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Finally,
this has happened. We're very happy, Maharaj. I'm amazed the number of devotees showed up here. There are another 30 or 40 in YouTube and Facebook, so wonderful. Back to the question of Lalita Prasad, Prabhu. Sometimes we see when great personalities, even like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said that we hear the description that he feigned paralysis. That means it was almost like not real. It was something like a leela. So sometimes I struggle with that. When you say that, you kind of minimize the difficulties that devotees go through in their lives to serve Krishna, even in the time of their departure. If you say it's like Leela, it kind of say that, well, they're not really suffering, but actually the suffering or the pain of a devotee actually glorifies the devotee even further. I feel, because they taking so much pain to set an example for us how to leave the body. We saw that in Mother Kirtida. I cannot deny, I mean, I saw that she was going through tremendous discomfort. So it's kind of a little difficult for me to reconcile that. So we call that at Leela. Definitely the activities of a devotee, a pure devotee is Leela. But the fact that we say that, well, they don't feel pain or they feigning the pain is kind of minimizes, I feel, the devotees' glories. Could you please throw light on that, Maharaj?
Yes, yeah, pure devotees feel pain. And the fact that they accept the pain and tolerate the pain for our sake is testimony to their glories, that they're willing to take that trouble for our sake, to give us Krishna consciousness. So I've often felt uncomfortable with using the word pastime in relation to Srila Prabhupada, because it's different. I mean, Krishna's Leela is different. I mean, that's definitely Leela, you know. Whereas, I mean, I've sort of gotten used to when devotees say Srila Prabhupada's pastime, in a way, but it shouldn't, you know, detract from the reality of the experience of that Srila Prabhupada had in struggling in the material world for Krishna.
Yeah.
You know, what makes him or anyone a pure devotee is that it's all for Krishna. But the fact that it's for Krishna doesn't mean that it doesn't involve pain or suffering or difficulty. Not at all. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just a fact.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, Satyarupa Gauranga Prabhu has a question for you. Satyarupa Prabhu, please unmute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thanks for wonderful lecture. Maharaj, often I have a question like, whenever I do some specific task related to work or executing anything, that week I'm thinking fully on that, so I'll get it in the dream in one or the other form of that. But why I never get Krishna's things? So I never see Krishna in the dream. So was that I'm not involving, or like how to understand that?
Well, do you get devotees in dreams?
Never. I didn't get devotees also in the dream. Though.
Do you ever get preaching or doing service in your dream?
No, Maharaj. Frankly, I'm accepting.
Okay. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada said we shouldn't take dreams too seriously. So I don't think it, yeah. But if it will make you happy, I will pray that you get more spiritual dreams.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Prabhu. And Maharaj, a teenager, his name is Kirtan. He has a question for you. Kirtan, please unmute. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to you, goes to Shri Prabhupada. My question, Maharaj, was that I've heard many times in lectures that all we need in life is 1/11th of a second of association with the devotee to be fully like in there or fully in Krishna consciousness, or at least accept that that's the reality. But as I see, I have so much association, like my parents, congregation, Satsar Prabhu, and so many people. But I still don't. I mean, I still can't take it as seriously as I'm supposed to. I have so much more than 1/11th of a second. So if you could add to that, Maharaj.
Well, as you yourself said, it's not the quantity of time, but it may be a question of the quality. But you should not take Krishna consciousness for granted. One devotee in London has a son who was, basically born into Krishna consciousness. And the father was explaining to him that he really went through a lot to find Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON, to find a bona fide spiritual master. And he was warning his son, not to take it for granted. Okay, you're born in it and everything is there. You haven't had to struggle and search to find it, but you shouldn't take it for granted. And devotional service is a privilege. The association of devotees is a privilege. And if we take it for granted and don't appreciate it, then Krishna may take it away from us, at least temporarily, to bring us to the point of appreciating what we had, which we took for granted. And when we realize how valuable it is, then, we'll want to take the best advantage of it. Because now we know the value of it. So, and then I would recommend attentive chanting. Attentive chanting really, it cleanses the heart, Cheto Darpano Marjanam, and it makes us aware of our weaknesses. When we see how we're distracted by petty things, so it makes us humble, and then we have to cry out for mercy to be able to chant with attention, so even chanting, like Srila Prabhupada said, it's chanting is easy, but the determination to chant is not so easy. So I think if you really work on attentive chanting, do you chant a certain number of rounds per day? Do you mind telling us how many?
Yes, Maharaj. It's 8 rounds a day, Maharaj.
And what time of day do you chant your rounds?
There's no set time, just whenever.
Yeah, well, it's good if you get up early. That makes a big difference. And chant during Brahma Muhurta, which begins an hour and 32 minutes before sunrise, if you can. I always think of this for some reason, but they're like two devotee sisters. One is in near Sacramento, California, and one is in Mumbai, India. So the sister in Mumbai told her sister in Galt that, you know, she should chant at least one round before sunrise. So, yeah, somehow we can adjust our schedule to get up early. And my godbrother, Kalakanta Prabhu of Krishna House in Gainesville, Florida, he often says that the best advice that he can give any devotee for advancing in Krishna consciousness is to take rest early. The idea being, if you take rest early, you can get up early. And then the value of your spiritual practices is enhanced in the early hours. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Maharaj, we have 4 more questions. 4 more devotees have raised hands. Do you have time to take 4 questions?
Yes.
Okay, Maharaj. Chandrika Priya Mataji, please unmute and ask.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the wonderful class. I just had a question regarding you know how like it is like it was mentioned that we in the next life a devotee takes off from where they stopped. Like if they do 1%, then they and if they can increase 1%, then it becomes 2% and it's never lost. I was just wondering that because like Maya is so strong, that would it be possible that in the next life they don't progress because of because as we it's been predicted that as we go more into Kali Yuga, things will get worse. But is it possible that like that somebody, even if they have 1%, but then if they take next birth, that they don't progress, and then if that happens, then will they still get a human birth, the birth after that? Like, do they still get more chances to progress?
Why are you asking this question?
Yeah, I was just curious, Maharaj. I had some discussion with devotees previously regarding one of my very dear devotee friends is in prasadam distribution, and I don't know, she's started to have doubts that that like they take, like, because she distributes a lot of prasadam, but people take time to come to Krishna consciousness, and like some come immediately but some take time. So she was just wondering as to how useful in the sense how, because we hear that if you give book to someone, even if they read it one page, one paragraph, one line, Prabhupada had said they can get human form and next life, and same with the prasadam distribution. So she was just having doubts on that, and we were just having this kind of discussions.
Well, yes, if one engages in devotional service, one will get a human birth, as we read, Bhagavad Gita 240. And then in the next life, it's expected that they will continue where they left off. Even though Kali Yuga is getting worse, but still, that's no impediment to continuing in Krishna consciousness. So if they do 1%, then in their next life they can start from 2% and continue to make progress. So keep distributing books, keep distributing prasad.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji. The next question is Shikha Mataji. You have a question. Please unmute and ask.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, all obeisances to you, and thank you for your grace and mercy today. Maharaj, I would like to take you to early part of your life when you were new in Krishna consciousness, at least in this birth. What kept you steady on the path? Because I'm sure every time it was not easy for all the things that you were doing. So my question is, what kept you steady on this path? And maybe through your experience, I will learn as well. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
I guess what kept me steady was that was Srila Prabhupada's mercy. I wanted to serve him and please him. And I had already seen that material facility doesn't make someone happy. I grew up in an affluent suburb of Chicago, and I could see, in my own home and in the homes of my schoolmates and friends, that the material wealth was not making their parents happy. So that was not an illusion that I would care to pursue. And otherwise, I was just so inspired by Srila Prabhupada, so moved by him. Yeah, but there was probably some continuation from the past life, because I was looking for a guru already before I met Srila Prabhupada. And so that thirst for spiritual knowledge and spiritual development was there. But my dear God brother, His Holiness Naranjana Swami, he doesn't like to take any credit for anything of his spiritual life, because he wants to give all the credit to Srila Prabhupada. So, but the Nectar of Devotion does say that, that Krishna consciousness is a continuation from one life to the next. And if someone has a natural taste for Krishna consciousness, it's very likely that he had made progress in his past life, but somehow he didn't complete the full course, and therefore he's continuing in presently. And the Nectar of Devotion also says that the reason for not completing the whole course was likely an offense at the lotus feet of a devotee. So again, we have to be very careful about that. But yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. The next question, Maharaj, from Sikindra Prabhu's friend, Stan Venkat. Prabhu, please unmute and ask.
Actually, it's Sthanu Nathan. Anyway, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. You had so much of personal association with Srila Prabhupada. I mean, you're so fortunate. But I was just curious if you could relate one incident which was very sweet and which is very dear to your heart, and which you will never forget, and that will give us an insight into Srila Prabhupada as some of his early disciples knew him.
Well, the one that comes to mind first, well, of course, there's so many, but the one that came to mind first was when I first met him, and I realized that he was my perfect master, and I surrendered to him. But I think it might be instructive to share a story of an incident with Srila Prabhupada that I didn't much appreciate. So the history is that I was in Calcutta, and Srila Prabhupada had just gotten the Juhu land in Bombay. And in a way, the story begins a little before that. At the Mayapur festival, at the time, Srila Prabhupada was in that small hut near the entrance to the property. And he said to me that during the British rule, there were 3 states: Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. Which do you want? I said, Srila Prabhupada, I will do whatever you want me to do. Just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. And he said, no, I want you to decide. And I realized that he was forcing me to come to a higher level of surrender. Because it said that there are three categories of disciples. The lowest receives an instruction from the spiritual master and forgets it, or does it but begrudgingly. Second category receives an instruction from the spiritual master and executes it perfectly. And first category anticipates what the spiritual master wants and does it without even being asked. So, all right, this was in Mayapur. Then from Mayapur, we went to Calcutta. And I was chanting, I was praying to the deities, what should I do? What would please Srila Prabhupada? But I couldn't get an answer. So one day I went into Srila Prabhupada's room with a plan to trick him into revealing what he wanted me to do. So I said, Srila Prabhupada, I've been thinking that maybe I should stay in Calcutta. And then I gave all the reasons why I should stay in Calcutta. And without any change of expression or voice, he says, yes, you can stay in Calcutta. But then I said, but then again, I was thinking maybe I should go back to Madras. And then, I gave the reasons why I should go back to Madras. And same tone of voice, same expression. Yes, you can go to Madras. So by then, I started to get a feeling that my plan was not going to work. But I was already invested in it, so I played it out to the end. And I said, but then again, I was thinking I should go to Bombay. And then I gave the reasons for that. With the same expression, same tone of voice. Yes, you can go to Bombay. So then I realized, my plan to trick Srila Prabhupada into revealing what he wanted me to do had failed. But I was also glad that my spiritual master was so wise and intelligent that he couldn't be tricked by a silly disciple. So then I was back to my chanting and praying to the deities. And then Srila Prabhupada left. And I still didn't have an answer. But then one day, somehow I got an insight. Maybe Krishna gave me the intelligence that our main program in India was life membership. In fact, Srila Prabhupada said, if you just give me 3 life members a day, means to us collectively, if you just give me 3 life members a day, I'll do everything else. So I reasoned that life membership was the most important program. And I had experienced that if we take care of our life members, they themselves will make other members for us. And if we don't take care of them, then even if we personally go to try to enlist someone as a life member, he may not join because he's heard that we don't fulfill our promises to our life members. And Bombay was the head office. So I thought I should come to Bombay and become the life membership secretary. And that would be my best contribution. So I wrote Srila Prabhupada that I decided in favor of Bombay. And so he said, yes, come to Bombay immediately. So I went to Bombay and, Srila Prabhupada greeted me very warmly, and he personally took me around the property and pointing out all the palm trees. And so, it was all very nice. And then, maybe a couple of days later, he called a meeting to discuss who should take charge of the project. And, the senior devotees went into Srila Prabhupada's room. It was quite tense. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And then suddenly, Srila Prabhupada said to me, so Giriraj, you will take charge. And within myself, I was almost devastated because that was not at all my intention. in coming to Jew, my intention was to be something like the life membership secretary. And I didn't think that I was so suited to management. And Jew was a huge project. So he said, so Giriraj, you will take charge. My mind was reeling, but I was convinced, intellectually and philosophically, that the secret of success in spiritual life was to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. So I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, if that's what you want, I will do it. And then Prabhupada smiled, he sort of chuckled, and then he said, so now the whole responsibility is on you. And then my mind was just like rebelling. I mean, it was rebelling, and I was thinking, but I didn't identify with those thoughts, but the thoughts that were coming through my mind were like, why is Srila Prabhupada doing that? Can't he see how difficult this is for me? And now he's rubbing it in by saying, now the whole responsibility is on you. But I had also heard that, when the spiritual master gives an instruction, he also gives the potency to execute it. And yeah, so in retrospect, it was I mean, I knew Srila Prabhupada knew what was best for everyone, even if it, but I didn't like it at the time, but I had faith in Srila Prabhupada, and then so then he left, Bombay, and but that was his mercy that he engaged me. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
That was a good question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So next question is from Prashant Prabhu. He's a very new devotee from University of Austin preaching program. Prashant Prabhu, please unmute and ask.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for sharing your association. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, as my question was, as we begin the journey, personally, I feel I have some days where I have a lot of clarity. Things are with Krishna, done with Krishna in mind, and then there are other days where the whatever material thing that I'm working on, work or whatever it is, has sort of taken over. How does one manage, Maharaj, with especially, I guess, like in this time where we're just at home due to COVID and in one place and without physical association, without being able to go to temple or otherwise? How does one balance and keep going every day?
Yeah, well, balance is the key. You need a schedule that includes enough time for Krishna consciousness. And you should try to arrange the schedule in such a way that the early hours are reserved for bhakti yoga. In every tradition, there is an appreciation of the value of the early hours, especially before sunrise. When I was based in Juhu, I made friends with some Muslims, Ahmadiyya Muslims, and they told me that in their tradition, Allah hears the prayers of worshipers more before sunrise. And these Muslim friends would actually come to Juhu and do their prayers, in the early hours of the morning, because we all got up early, well before sunrise. So, yeah. So what you said about balance is crucial. And that will ensure that you don't get too carried away with other pursuits at the cost of Krishna consciousness.
Great.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prashant. Next question, Maharaj, from Pushpanjali Mataji. Pushpanjali Mataji, please unmute and ask.
Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. I'm asking a question from a member from the South program. She's a new member. Her name is Chandrika Vashisht, and she's asking that what is the next step for the soul after realizing that Krishna is the source of our happiness? It'll be great if you could directly, address her question. Thank you, Maharaj.
Well, the natural conclusion, if we understand that Krishna is the source of our happiness, is to work on our relationship with Krishna, to work on our connection with Krishna. And that means to engage in devotional service, bhakti yoga. As in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhakti mam abhijanati, that only by devotional service can he be known. So, yeah, and as I mentioned, even in the earlier stages of sadhana bhakti, one can experience the happiness in Krishna consciousness, which is what we want. And then it just gets better and better.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. And personally, I really want to thank you for uplifting us in this new year. We are all swimming, I think drowning because of this COVID situation. Your association in more than whatever the 1/11th or whatever, it really has helped me. And really, really very grateful for your time and your patience and your discourse. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Well, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Pushpanjali. Maharaj, there is a question from Mittal Shah. She is a dentist and a very nice devotee. She's started practicing devotional service. Mittal Shah, Mataji, please unmute and ask.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Actually, I'm Mittal's husband, Ankit. I have a quick question. Maharaj, either when I'm doing materialistic work or...
Wait, can we see you? All we're seeing is the ceiling.
Oh.
Can you adjust the...
Can you see me? Sorry.
Prabhu, maybe put lighting, please, if possible.
Maharaj, can you see me? Okay.
No.
Oh. How about now?
I caught a glimpse of your arm. Yeah, now, yeah.
You're not getting, okay. Okay, let me see if I can ask the question and I'll try to adjust this, put some light on it.
Okay.
So my question was that when I'm doing either, God's work, spiritual work, like overseeing something in temple or either materialistic work, I tend to get overwhelmed quite often. I feel like responsibility is taking a lot of burden on me. How do I overcome that? Any guidance?
Well, you have to understand that you are not the doer and that ultimately Krishna is there. And just surrender to Krishna and beg him to, empower you, enlighten you, guide you. And don't take it that you're alone, because you're not alone. And yeah, don't take it that you are the doer. And then if you know like that Krishna's your partner, so to speak, then you shouldn't feel overwhelmed because it's not all on you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
And Maharaj, is it okay? Somebody wrote a question in WhatsApp. May I read it out for you?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is from one of the congregation members. We know that Krishna's mercy is always there. It is just that we are not taking those mercy easily available. We also hear that to make progress, we need to get devotees' mercy. How do we understand this?
Well, generally it's said that Krishna's mercy follows the devotee's mercy. Although the two go together, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavana Jiva Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. By the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. Well, actually, yeah, by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru, and then by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. So, but yeah, generally the mercy of Krishna follows the mercy of the devotee. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Madhurya Kadambini, has given a brilliant analysis of how someone gets bhakti. And he says that someone could argue that one gets bhakti due to the mercy of the Lord, the unbounded, causeless mercy of the Lord. But he says that cannot be the answer because some get it and some don't. And the Lord, being the Supreme Father of every living entity, must be equal to all of his children. So if he's equal to all of his children, then how is it then that some get it and some don't? So the answer cannot be the mercy of the Lord. So then he proposes the answer could be the mercy of a devotee. And he says that there too the objection could be raised that a devotee also cannot be partial. But he refutes that argument by citing the qualifications of a Madhyama Bhakta, who is a preacher. In principle, the Uttama Bhakta, the Mahabhagavat, does not preach because he sees that everyone is already engaged in Krishna's service. So the Madhyama Bhakta is the preacher. And he makes distinctions by definition. Prema, Maitri, Kripopeksha, Sakaroti, Samadhyama. So prema, he gives his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maitri, he makes friendship with devotees. Kripa, he gives mercy to the innocent. And upeksha, he neglects the envious. So for a preacher, a Madhyama Bhakta, to show mercy to the innocent is not a lack of impartiality, but it is the nature of the Madhyama Bhakta. So he says that the cause of bhakti is the mercy of the Madhyama Bhakta. And of course, we know that sometimes an Uttama Bhakta, for the sake of preaching, will adopt the mood of a Madhyama Bhakta. And then, when that living entity receives the mercy of the devotee, then Krishna gives his mercy. Because Krishna is partial to his devotees. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, well, someone might complain that, Krishna is supposed to be equal to everyone. Why should he be partial to his devotees? And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this is Krishna's quality of bhakta vatsalyata, being especially affectionate to his devotees. And this is not a dushanam, not a fault, but it is a bhushanam, and an ornament in Krishna's character. So the conclusion is that one gets bhakti by the mercy of a devotee, and the devotee's mercy is followed by Krishna's mercy. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. And there is one more question. I want to be cognizant of your time because it's lunch time for you. Do you have some more time?
Yes.
Okay, Maharaj. This question is again from one of the congregation members. The question, how can we remain helpless, meaning depend on Krishna for everything, yet enthusiastic and determined to do services to please Srila Prabhupada?
But that person's not available to come on the screen?
It was sent to us through YouTube Live.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
The question is, how can we remain helpless, meaning depend on Krishna, yet enthusiastic and determined to do services to please Srila Prabhupada?
Oh, well, the two go together. Yeah, we want to be determined, enthusiastic to please Srila Prabhupada, but we know that we cannot be successful independently, that we need help to be successful. So in that sense, we're helpless. We should have the mood of helplessness, that without the help of the previous acharyas, we cannot be successful. There's a very beautiful talk that Srila Prabhupada gave in England, in which he discusses the mood of the devotee or the preacher. I could paraphrase it pretty accurately,
Sure.
but maybe I'll just read it because it's so nice. I think I could find it. Just one moment. Well, I guess I'll have to well, I'm not finding it, maybe because I changed computers. But I can give the basic idea. So the basic idea is that Arjuna, I'm just going to make one more attempt because it's just so nice the way. Okay, I'm surrendering. So what Srila Prabhupada said in this talk in London is that Arjuna had decorated his chariot with the flag of Hanuman. And his thought was that Hanuman, you're the acharya in fighting for your master, Lord Ramachandra. So, please help me in fighting for my master, for Lord Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada said that in every activity of the Vaishnava, he always feels helpless and is praying for the help of the previous acharyas. And then he gave the example of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who is the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he said, in every line, in every word, he's praying for the help of the previous acharyas. Practically every chapter he ends, Rupa Raghunatha Pada Yare Asha, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kahe Krishna Dasa. So Srila Prabhupada was saying that his mood, every line, every word, he's praying to the previous acharyas, Rupa and Raghunath, to help him. So he was saying that's the mood of the Vaishnava, that he's helpless and he's always praying for the help of the previous acharyas.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. It was wonderful. And Maharaj, that's all the questions we have. So with that, we would like to give you a vote of thanks. He's a very senior devotee of our congregation. He has some connection with you and he would like to give a vote of thanks. Is it okay for you?
Okay.
Okay, Vamanari Prabhu, please unmute and proceed.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances to your lotus feet. All glories to you and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I got this great fortune of expressing my gratitude and give vote of thanks on the request of Satyasara Prabhu. I have very fond memories of attending several of your classes in person, especially one over 10 years ago in Dallas in a home program when my mother received your blessings in the form of Maha Garland. and a year later she left this world amidst devotees. It's very inspiring, Maharaja, to read about your services to Srila Prabhupada in establishing Juhu Temple, especially watching these episodes in the Abhay Charan series of the video cassettes which I have watched. Maharaja, in your class, you have explained nicely about the time, how to utilize it, and self-interest, and there is no price tag for the time. And realizing our spiritual identity and a permanent source of happiness. Then the next thing you addressed, we have to follow a standard process of Bhakti Yoga as given by Srila Prabhupada and Shastras. And devotional service is never lost. Messages of the Lord should be received through ears, and it will have a very potent effect, just like a medicine injected through the vein. Lastly, for devotees, the rising and setting of sun does not reduce life, but it gets closer to the eternal life. Taking these points to heart, with your blessings, we hope to implement this in our practice and pray to you for you to bless us again and again with your association in future. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Jai, that was very nice. Better than what I said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. And just wanted to conclude the program saying we are very grateful for your association today. We pray that you bless us with more of your association in the near future. And one humble request we want to place it, Maharaj, is we would like to do your book signing event in Austin.
Oh.
So could you please tell us how we should do it? We would like to do it in a grand way.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, let the book come. And also we're dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. So that, we're not traveling now. But that's very nice of you to offer. I would love to do that when the time.
Thank you very much, man. That's
yeah, thank you. Thank you for that invitation.
Thank you, Maharaj. And devotees, if you like to get a copy of Maharaj's any of his books, please contact Jai Subhadra, Devidasi, or Satyarupa Gauranga Prabhu. They'll be able to provide you a copy. So with that, Maharaj, thank you again one more time at your lotus feet.
Yeah, thank you.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Radhe Radhe, Dandavat Maharaj.
So
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam, Hari Bol.
Right, thank you. So let's conclude with Vaishnav Pranam.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes.
Vaishnavrind ki jai.
Maharaj ki
jai. Shiva Prabhupada ki
jai. His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj ki
jai. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you.
Radhe Radhe, Hari Bol.
Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Leave what a
All right, well,
Yes, ma'am.
have important service. So
Sure.
I will let you go now.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj, again.
Thank you for organizing the program, and yeah, I look forward to more of your association.
Thank you so much. Conclude here. Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Oh Lord, I should just cut the call.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We'll stop here.